Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Aging with Attitude. I'm your host, Phil Koch. This evening we have a special guest. We have Elaine Marshall, who's the North Carolina Secretary of State. In fact, we have a bio here that's so impressive. We don't have time to go through it all, but I will read the first sentence here, which it says, in 1996, Ms. Marshall became the first woman ever elected to a statewide executive branch office in North Carolina. We are honored to have her here on our show. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. Thanks a lot.
Sure. Well, tell me, as Secretary of State, what are the main responsibilities of the Secretary of State in our state and other states?
Well, it's different from state to state.
Okay.
A lot of people think of elections because of what happened in Florida in 2000. I don't do elections at all. That doesn't stop people from sending me ugly emails about election stuff, but I take it all in stride. Here in North Carolina, it's the most business-like office in the whole country. I say we're the basic three legs of the economy. If somebody wants to create a business, an LLC, a corporation, or a nonprofit, they have to charter with us. Mm-hmm. If somebody wants, that's one of the three legs. The next one is they have to have money to operate whatever they're doing. So commercial lending documentation is filed with us. We don't know how much the loan is, but we know if Farmer Jones pledged his cows, if a company pledged their inventory or their financing new equipment, and if it's not a part of the real estate or if it's not a motor vehicle with a title, that documentation is filed with us. And if you just look around Charlotte and see all this big equipment, earth-moving equipment, building equipment, they don't have a title. All of that documentation of the purchase or lease of that type of item is within our office. That's the second leg, that's commercial lending. The third leg is investment, which is what we're going to talk about here today. Right. If somebody's starting a company and they want not to borrow money, but to have investors who have an equity position in the entity, then they have to register with us, the product has to be approved, the salespeople have to be approved, and I have criminal authority in that area, civil and criminal, and so that's the third leg of the economy. We facilitate the flow of capital, either creation of a business or somehow movement of money, capital assets through the economy. So we're absolutely vital part of that infrastructure.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
So are a lot of these things found if I'm an initial company starting off on a website somewhere that I can turn to? How does that work?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is Secretary of State. This is North Carolina, sosnc.com. Real simple, not .gov, not more than one dot, sosnc.com.
Okay.
.com. That was my very first efficiency move when I got into office. Make it short and sweet so that somebody could find it. Then we've got frequently asked questions in the different areas, whether it's corporations, nonprofits. There are forms up there that folks can fill out and tender to us. There are step-by-step instructions. We've got a good, robust FAQ and instructional section. However, if somebody has a problem that's not generally answered there, my staff is very good at responding to emails, very good at responding to telephone calls. We would prefer emails because we can queue them and divide them out a little bit more easily. And sometimes the phone lines do get clogged if there's something going on in the world and, you know, close to tax deadlines and those kinds of things.
Right.
So emails, we can respond to those at, say, 9 o'clock at night, and then you have it at your desk first thing in the morning, whereas telephone doesn't quite work that way. So we're pretty good at customer services. We want to make sure people don't have a horrible experience in dealing with bureaucracy. We understand we're there to help them get started and then get out of the way. But sosnc.com gets thousands and thousands and thousands of visitors a day. Lenders and investors can do their research, due diligence before you spend your money, before you invest your money. Companies tell me that they don't allow a contract to go out above $10,000 unless they have a print-off from us. Commercial real estate people and insurance people tell us they don't sign a contract until they have a print-off from us showing that the corporation or the LLC is in good standing in the state of North Carolina.
Right.
We can solve people, we can prevent a lot of headaches if people will just use that website.
Yeah, it sounds like save a lot of, forgive me, I have a lot of friends that are attorneys, but also perhaps some legal fees, because a lot of attorneys out there can do it, but there's a fee involved if they go through. I'm not saying that lawyers are not needed, God knows they are. But
well, thank you, I'm a lawyer. And
the first step might be through the website, right?
I'm not really talking against my profession,
right.
But lawyers tend to get involved when something has gone wrong.
Right.
Being a little proactive as a business person on your own by looking and seeing can prevent that later lawyer cost, untanglement cost on down the line, and that's just good business,
yes.
really.
Yes. Okay, so the Securities Division, how can that help the investors?
That is a great, great, great question. We have a little logo on our website that says check before you write one. And then it's subdivided into charitable giving and investing. Before you write a check out of your good nest egg, your hard-earned pension fund, you need to check to see if the person selling it is legitimate and if the product itself is legitimate. You know, North Carolina's most famous new resident is Bernie Madoff. He did not begin Ponzi scheme and investment fraud, and it will not end with him. We have what I call a bunch of mini Madoffs here in North Carolina, and all you have to do is read the paper on a daily basis, and you can see folks who are scammed out of their money. Now, senior citizens are a target. Senior citizens are the ones with the assets. They're the ones that have worked hard, saved their money, tried to provide for their future. A lot of them are very unhappy about interest rates that are available to them in secure investments at a bank because it's less than 1% in a lot of cases. So that has made investing in other places attractive for them. We can help, we tell people we do periodic releases on what the scam du jours are, what's going around, what's trendy in this area.
Right.
We try to help them by, we've got actually, you can print off this when somebody calls you to ask the right questions and write down the answers to see what the expectations are. And if they start not giving you answers or diddling and you have trouble coming back to get the answers, that's a very good idea that something's not wrong. Something's not right, I'm saying that correctly. Right. If they try to put pressure on you, if they act like there's a limited quantity of this, or it's a secret that they're just letting you in because they like you for some reason, all of those kinds of things are red flags in the investment area.
Or if there's a limited time.
Limited time, limited quantity, just, that pressure kind of stuff.
Right.
And you can see it on the TV when it's not investment. It's the car sale, it's the furniture sale, it's the, an offer to get somebody to come out and survey something at your house, exterminator, gutter guy, whatever, you know. Limited time for this great offer. It's a marketing way of life in America, but when it's your good hard-earned money, it's prudent to stop, slow down, ask correct questions, and then call or go to websites to visit independent, reliable sources, such as your Secretary of State's office or the Securities and Exchange Commission. We can handle everything if it's federal entity or state entity. We're linked into all of those websites and databases. I will say that sometimes those federal databases are a little difficult to navigate. That's why calling a local regulator here, emailing, we have a toll-free number which should be up on the screen at some time during the show that people can call in. And I can give you an anecdotal case. There was somebody who invested in excess of $3 million with an individual for an investment. A lot of money, hard-earned money. Wow. About 2 or 3 weeks later, decided to invest $2 million more because of the conversation that was going on. Had that person called us, they would have found out that that individual had just pled guilty in Arizona, was awaiting sentencing because he was going to give evidence against other people in the operation, hoping to get a lower prison time. And by the way, he needed $5 million restitution, approximately. So that 3 and 2 added up to 5. We could have told that person, here's the record, do as you see fit, but here's the record.
Right.
And you know, that investment, that loss wouldn't have happened.
And they did lose the money?
That case was one where there were assets to liquidate.
Okay.
But they didn't go very far. It's
Right.
kind of like having icing for half the cake. You can't spread it out all the way. It gets very thin. So some of that money was back, but there were people in Arizona who also were entitled to restitution in that case. There was a house, several cars, motorcycles, you know.
Well, I'll give you an anecdote. My mother-in-law, who's 91 now, about 5 years ago, wanted to sell an electric scooter that her husband used prior to his passing. Mm-hmm. Sitting around the house for 3 years and nobody was using it, and she contacted Medicare and they said, no, we, sell it, used or whatever. So she reached out with my wife's help to sell it online, got an investor from Belgium who wanted to, you know where this is heading. Mm-hmm. By the way, why don't you, to open up a standby LC, I need some funds forwarded to me before I can make the acquisition.
Oh.
Right, one of these things. So I hear about this, say, no. So let's reach out. Actually, it was your department, and your department put us in touch with the U.S. consulate in Belgium.
Oh, okay, good.
And somebody went to the physical location. There was no physical location. It was a P.O. box on a door. There was no physical, nobody lived there. And they said that was a bad area for these type of scams, fraud to take place. And it saved us a lot of money.
It
My
sure
mother-in-law.
It sure did.
Yeah.
It sure did. And people will still get the email and respond to it about the Nigerian person who's in some great distress and blah, 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 blah. And our United States Embassy actually has an agent group there, particularly to try to ferret out who's doing this in Nigeria. It's a part of a worldwide kind of thing, but we actually are on it.
Really?
And when we get those complaints, we send them to the 409 office, which it's some section of a code, 409, that has these people over there. But I'm here to tell you, though that's putting money down a rat hole.
Right.
To get it back out of another country is just a wild dream that isn't going to happen.
Yeah, but I'm sure they do it based on numbers. If they send 100 million out,
and they get one,
they get
5 responses.
It's been successful.
Right.
Right, yeah. So for all of our viewers, when in doubt, or even remotely in doubt, make the phone call. Talk to your children, talk to friends, but definitely make the contact the Secretary of State and her department and find out if these companies are legitimate or investors are legitimate.
That old adage, if it sounds too good to be true, our mothers all told us that, our daddies all told us that. I'm telling you that, yes. If they're saying it's a guaranteed return, there are no guarantees. There is risk in all of these investments. There's no guarantee. Please, grab your checkbook or grab your bank account and just hold it close to your heart. Don't be letting these folks in that.
Right. Not just for the seniors, for those of us, everybody.
Everybody,
right.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so what are the most vulnerable victims of investment fraud that you've seen?
Well, senior citizens certainly are the most vulnerable. Yeah. And it becomes a double, triple offense and affront because sometimes the senior will catch on and the person will then continue to lure them in by saying, well, yeah, that $10,000 didn't work too well, but here's the new thing we got going right now, and if you got $15,000, I can earn it all back plus interest. The people whose good sense somehow escapes their head in a belief that this person wouldn't betray me. I've talked to them on the telephone, or I met them somewhere. They seem very nice. They seem very upstanding. But a lot of times, somebody's investment money is paid out to look very upstanding, to have credible office, drive a nice car, nice cufflinks and stuff like that, to act like they've been very successful, when in fact, that's not the case. We just had a guilty plea here in Charlotte, if I can look at my notes here. This individual pled guilty. This is a July 24, 2014 press release. This individual, 55-year-old, defrauded over 25 investors in this Charlotte area of over $2.5 million. Wow. The evidence in the case showed that he invested $580,000 in some things, but he spent $450,000 to pay out. That's the Ponzi scheme aspect, where you get new money in to pay out to make it look like it's a good investment. So he spent $450,000 to pay out, which becomes a attractive come for other people. And he spent $1.2 million on his high lifestyle.
Oh my gosh. Wow. And that just happened.
This, he worked on it, He was a legitimate person. He started this alleged company in 2005. He had been a registered person until August of 2009, and that's when he went rogue, basically.
Wow.
Right here in the Charlotte area.
Right here in the Charlotte market. We had
now, he has not been sentenced yet, but he's facing 20 years and serious financial fine. Now, I'll tell you, when I say double and triple affront to people, we've had crooks to tell their victims, turn me in. How can I earn back enough to pay you back? Turn me in, I'll go to jail. And it preys upon people's emotions. They'll say, you know, I won't be able to see my daughter graduate from high school, or I won't be able to see my grandchild play soccer. And it plays on people's emotions. Please don't allow your emotions to get ahead of you. These people need to be stopped, because they're not only stealing from you, they're stealing from other folks out there.
Or future people. What about all these other ones that if you don't stop them now,
that's right.
Who's next? Even if you could afford it, which who can afford
to have
anything to be stolen from you, but what about future victims?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Well, what are some of the warning signs of a potential investment fraud? You named some of them, obviously, like, you know, if it's too good to be true, don't
if it's too good to be true, if it's guaranteed, if they put pressure on you.
Yeah.
Now, other things are that you need to understand what the business is.
Right.
Crooks read the newspaper, and they know that, for instance, right now, energy, whether it's something related to natural gas, whether it's wind and solar, you know, they will entice people for the next new frontier. It's going to be a breakthrough somewhere. Right. The same thing with different medicines. This is going to be the miracle breakthrough drug, you know, that kind of thing.
Get on the early stages.
Yeah. But if you don't understand the business plan, how it makes money, how it has the possibility of making money, then you may be only gifting. You may only be throwing away your money. Right. And if they start saying, well, it's kind of too complicated, you know, go and run. They'll say these kinds of things are so very sophisticated. We've had the analysts working on this for years, and they figured out a way to beat the system. You know, whether it's currency trading, it's almost like beating the system in Las Vegas, because it is gambling. You know, they've got a way that they beat the system. If they can't explain it to you, and with you having your good sense to say, this is a crapshoot. This is gambling. I'm not going to do that with my money. They entice. They flower up. Other times, affinity crime to me is just absolutely horrible. Affinity crime is where folks get into a pre-existing group, and it's frequently a religious group, where people have already placed their trust in another group of people. Right. If you pray together, if you do mission work, if you feed the hungry, if you do community projects, they feel like, I can depend upon this person. We have trust. We believe in the same thing, when they really are a target. Right. We have had folks, some from Charlotte here, who went on a Christian cruise, and the crook, I guess, decided that if the people could afford a cruise, that's his target market, and met a lot of folks, and then worked that network in the coming years. We've seen even church here in Charlotte and around, church building fund money that was being held until some later date being squandered away with somebody who promised quick, high returns when there was nothing there.
Wow.
Nothing there. You know, because even sometimes folks that have a project, it's going to fail. But if you can see it, if you can feel it, I tell folks in charitable giving to give locally, where you can go down and volunteer. Every organization is going to accept your volunteering. If they don't, you probably don't want to invest in them.
And if it's a nonprofit, if I may ask a question, and let's say it's a nonprofit, whether it's in Charlotte or it's federally, you're allowed to ask them what % is going towards administrative fees. Is that not correct?
That's absolutely correct. And for those that are registered in North Carolina, go to sosnc.com, check before you write one, and go to charities. We are the depository for those reports. Those reports are all online, and you will find that some entities pay the charity in a given year 0%, 10%,
right.
20%. I personally believe that most North Carolinians believe that a majority of the money should go to the good work.
Yeah.
Now, I tell people, the state sets the reporting time, which may not match up with the organization's year. So they may start a campaign in May and have to file a report at the end of July, and they really have spent a lot but have not made a bunch. So look at 2 or 3 years worth, and if that average doesn't pick up the next year to 80%, you know, that's a red flag. It's not going to the charity. It's either a scam, or it's going to high living, or
right.
High administrative expenses. So that resource is available for people at the Secretary of State's office, sosnc.com. If you have insomnia, you can go up there and start reading these reports one by one, but there's summary information up there also.
But it's important. Every year,
very important.
I'm sure everybody has a story to tell, but every year I get a phone call from the same individual looking to collect money on behalf of the Charlotte Police Department for children that needs clothing. And I forgot exactly the term for it. And one of the years, a couple years ago, so I gave the first year, I don't know, a couple $100 from my company. Second year it happened, and they were pushing for more money. And I was like, you know what? There's a police department office very close to me, so I stopped after lunch one day and asked them, because they kept talking about this lieutenant within the police department. So they called him right on the spot, and they said, do you know who this individual is, this organization giving money? They had no idea who they was. In fact, they wanted their telephone number and their contact information.
Call us. That's a criminal violation.
That's a criminal violation?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. To defraud people like that, or to act like you are somebody that you're not. You also have to be real cautious, because there are wonderful national organizations, and then there'll be a sound-alike group. And sometimes you can even tell they're in boiler rooms where there are 10 people on telephones or more, all talking in the background. That's a bad sign.
It's a bad red flag. Well, you know, it's a good point to mention that, because even me, I had a little bit of a shame when I found out it was fraudulent, to think, oh, gee, you know, I'm embarrassed that I got caught. Now, I did give the information, but I could see where a lot of individuals would say, you know,
oh, well.
I'm going to let it go because I'm embarrassed that I got taken. But it should be the exact opposite for the reasons we talked about earlier.
I hope that the people will get the name of the person and say, is this your real name?
Right.
Where are you calling from? Let me call you back. And if they won't give you a telephone number to call them back, that's a sign that this is not an up-and-up operation.
Right.
Try to get as much information as you possibly can. Look on your telephone if you've got that caller ID on it. That may not be the correct number, but that's something for us to go on.
Right.
If you just call us and say what it was or what you think it was, that's really not much of a information for us to begin any type of investigation. So try to gather as much information, because here's the reality.
Yeah.
There are only X amount of charitable dollars in North Carolina, in Charlotte, in the world.
Yeah.
You want them to go to the charity. You want them to go to the good works.
Yeah.
And having bad apples in the barrel,
ruins it for everybody.
Puts a foul taste in your mouth for everybody. Right.
Right.
And the police are trying to do good things with children, and it's, you know, it's just really bad news.
Understood. We had this started. What are the key differences between a stockbroker, investment advisor, and a financial planner?
Okay, I've got
Good
my
question.
cheat sheet here.
Go ahead, please.
There are two of those that are registered. The stockbroker and the investment advisor are registered. They all have to pass tests. They have to have a certain skill level. And if they mess up, that goes on their record that you and I as citizens can find out about. A stockbroker is a commission operating person, and their duty is suitability of you as a client to the product. Is it something that's going to give you money now because you're an older person, or is it somebody that's a growth stock because you're saying, I've got kids to educate in 10 or 15 years, I don't need money now, I want it to grow. They are to make sure that they put you in the right stock for what your needs are and also your risk tolerance.
Correct.
An investment advisor is generally paid on a flat fee. There may be some commission in there, but mostly a flat fee, and they have a fiduciary duty.
Okay.
The stockbroker does not. The stockbroker can operate on their best interest. The investment advisor is required to operate on your best interest. That's what a fiduciary duty means.
Okay.
They should not be selling you something, product X, because they may get a better return on it than product Y over here. Their duty is to you, and that's why a lot of those are fee-based people.
Okay.
The last category is not a category. Financial planner. There is no registration or no regulatory authority for those. There will be people who have business card that says, I'm a certified financial advisor, and behind their name they'll have a whole list of initials. Those are initials and certifications that come from this group or that group, and we don't have any way of regulating that group. It is, I think some of those certifications are valid, but they are make weight in the marketing world to make you think they have credentials, and they're not registered. Now, some of them will say they're registered. They are registered with an insurance license, which is way different than a securities license.
Right.
So this is the area where you need to ask a lot of questions.
Great to know.
Yep.
Thank you very, very much. And I want to thank you, Elaine Marshall, for coming on. Secretary of State, it's a real honor to have you on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Anybody who has questions, please don't hesitate to contact our office and ask those kind of questions hard, okay, for friends or family. My name is Phil Koch. I'd like to thank you for joining to our show, servicing Channel 20, from Channel 21, servicing Charlotte and the surrounding market. Thank you for joining us again with Aging with Attitude. Good evening.